lose my memory sometimes.
Pour moi, ça se développe même d'une façon quelquefois complètement
I
imprévisible.
add something, but
Mais toujours mais c'est la logique du
is in
vivant.
proportion with what we want to
C'est comme un arbre.
and that's very difficult to, especially
Alors c'est
culture is part of a nation. So if you have no culture or no desire of culture, then your civilization is dying. Simply that.
pour moi, c'est la chose la plus importante. Que
And
même
that
s'il
may
y
be
a
a mistake on mine, but I mean,
Yes, I think that really people don't listen to music purely as music, but they take that most of the time as background for their own thoughts, for their own life. Therefore, there is a strong prejudice against intellectualism in music.
you know, if you are not obstinate, you don't obtain anything. If you don't move, you will stay always paralyzed. That's what I mean, in the middle of it.
You see a photo of yourself from 40 years ago in my case, or 50 years, and you say to yourself, oh my God, I look like that? When you shave in the morning, if you look at your face in the mirror, you don't see that change, or you see it, but in such a little way.
If you look at the architecture, for instance, when the new material came, concrete, glass, steel, you had quite a different type of invention in architecture. And I think in music it is the same. You cannot forever go on with the same material as the 18th century or the 17th century. So you have to invent a new material, and then the new ideas are in phase with the new material.
You know, if you are not obstinate, you don't obtain anything.
Nothing.
I wrote a piano piece for a competition. And when I saw this piano piece, I said, no, it's not enough. That's not the way I want to hear the sound and to organize the structure of the piece. So I did look at it, and I say, now I will do enlargement of this moment, and we will see what happens.
People who are really creative want to communicate. They don't want just to discover for themselves. That's not true. I've never seen this in the case. The creativity is a form of generosity, even with a lot of egocentrism. But I mean, that's generosity anyway.
I wanted to go further, as simple as that. So progressively, you know, the piece went on and on and on and bigger and bigger.
So for me, each composition is like a labyrinth. And the labyrinth can go on forever.
But in the same time, I would like sometimes that the labyrinth is finished. And that's really the problem. Because if you are really working on a piece, you are looking at your ideas, and you find your ideas are able of much more development than you think. And then you try to go further, and sometimes the labyrinth brings you in a total different direction that you thought at the very beginning. I begin a piece, and then I say, my God, the material I have is richer than I think.
People who are really creative want to communicate. Our music communicates, but what it communicates, that's very impossible to say. And you know it. You know the construction. You know how it is made. You have made something of it, out of it. And then, I mean, you think you know it because you have perceived everything. But when you go further and you want to know how and why, beyond the how, why it was done, then you are in the dark again.
When you see some fishes in an aquarium, and they are completely static for a time or just moving very little, and suddenly when something happens, you see also very quick movements and very nervous, and suddenly they are again very quiet. I like very much this alternative of movements, very quick and completely quiet.
I think that the origin of the sound is important. If you have a sound like a harp, for instance, a harp sound, that's totally different of the oboe sound. And you don't ask the same qualities. In the harp, for instance, to have the resonance of the instrument, you have to play very firmly and then to send the sound to the audience. For oboe, you sustain the sound. You can sustain it as a piano, and then you force the audience to listen very carefully to the sound, or on the contrary, you push the sound until the point where it's not pleasant sometimes. So the sound has some qualities.
You hear the sound, and the sound guides you.
Well, the solo violin is, as it says, a solo violin without anything else than the violin itself. This composition uses some themes, thematic motifs, but chosen accordingly to what you relate. And the first version even was also your choice. If you did the choice A, B, C, D, and so on, you had the choice A, B, C, D. If you had the choice D, B, A, C, that would be your choice. It was mobile.
And I think that's, for me, that's very interesting. So from the conception of time, that's you don't look always for the future, but you are purely in the present. And you don't think even of the past or the future. You are purely in the moment where you perceive the sound.
When I'm hearing a combination of tones which sounds good, I can just let the sound die. I can appreciate the sound until the last moment. One is not in a hurry to hear the music, but one can just wait his own pleasure.
I am very sensitive to the whole question of natural resonance.
A chord can move away from you, or it can move towards you.
And you can have intervals inside the chord which are hard and anarchic.
Or other different intervals which are softer and more
euphonious.
A ninth, from a D to an E, for example, is a soft relationship.
And if you add a third note, a B flat, to those two notes,
the relationship between these three notes are still soft.
They suggest a whole tone scale.
and if you go further and put a B natural in the bass,
you still don't fundamentally change that impression.
But if you invert the two Bs and put the B flat in the bass,
and the B natural an octave higher,
now you have a chord which has a much harder sound.
And all of this comes from the natural resonance of the notes. And that is why
the more that you distance yourself from soft intervals which cooperate with one another,
and use hard intervals which cooperate much less,
or even not at all,
the more you find that you can change the vocabulary of harmony. Why did I call this work Dérive? Because dérive means a deviation.
A deviation in this case on some chords and rhythms from another of my compositions.
Dérive in French means literally
Déviation d'un avion.
An airplane deviating or drifting from its course in response to a wind or air current, or by analogy,
D'une chose qui est le
the
jouet
deviation
des
or
événements.
drifting of an object which is the plaything of events.
It has been said by Proust. Proust said, when I write a novel, I expect that the reader discovers himself when he reads my pages. And I think that's exactly the point of every work, important work, that it provokes you to discover yourself.
Saturday, May 30th, 1914. My dear Alfred, thank you for your letter. As for the aeroplane, which I am giving to you, it's complicated. But of one thing I am still sure, that I will have engraved upon it. I'm afraid I don't know the correct name of the particular part of the plane, and I don't want to commit heresy in front of an aviator. Well, at any rate, I will have engraved upon it those verses of Mallarmé which you remember. On signe d'autrefois, a swan from time past, from that poem you love so much, even though you find it puzzling and obscure. You know, the poem which begins, "The virgin, vivacious and beautiful day." Alas, today is no longer virgin, vivacious, or beautiful.
Proust and Mallarmé.
Mallarmé and Proust.
These two great writers represent for me two extremes.
Two completely different approaches to the creation of a work of art.
But each to me as fascinating as the other.
When you read Proust, you lose your way as in a labyrinth.
And when you get to the bottom of the page, you have to start all over again at the top in order to find your way.
In Mallarmé,
you find yourself face to face with a block of mineral.
Le vierge, le vivace et le bel aujourd'hui. Va-t-il nous déchirer avec un coup d'aile ivre, ce lac dur, oublié, que hante sous le givre le transparent glacier des vols qui n'ont pas fui?
A virgin, vivacious and beautiful day. Will it shatter for us with a drunken blow of its wing, this hard, lost lake, haunted beneath the frost? By a transparent glacier of flights not flown?
In my improvisation on Mallarmé No. 1, I reused elements from a much earlier work.
My notation for piano. I like to take elements which already belong to me.
What I call objets retrouvés, objects rediscovered.
Because what interests me in this situation is precisely the possibility of creating something new from old material.
Un cygne d'autrefois se souvient que c'est lui, magnifique, mais qui sans espoir se délivre pour n'avoir pas chanté la région où vivre, quand du stérile hiver a resplendi l'ennui.
A swan from time past remembers. It is he, magnificent, yet surrendering without hope, for not having sung of a land where to live when from sterile winter shines world weariness.
Почему Булез должен говорить, как дураки молодежь?
Am I the only listener in the world who finds this music pretty monotonous, as well as being monotonously pretty?
When I got to know Stravinsky, I must have been 32 at the time and he was 75.
But when we spoke about a musical concept or a taste,
I found I was communicating very directly with him.
And there was no storm, no bang, nothing. On the contrary, we were very happy with each other, if I may say so. And my encounters with him were always very pleasant.
Because I discovered some things which are not really right in my score, at least. There is one bar too much. Et ça rend la rythmique.
Well, what did you find out?
Mistake.
A mistake?
Yes. And then, when I knew him, of course, I don't say that I discovered the Rite of Spring through the person of Stravinsky. But to see him, to know him, to discuss with him was also, very, very profitable to me because I saw his character. I saw what he wanted to express much more directly.
As for myself, I met this man who worked a sort of spell with his pieces. His music left a deep impression on me and influenced me a lot. And I discovered a human being who, even at that age, was still very, very, very energetic.
Afin d'évoquer Igor Stravinsky, de conjurer son avenir.
Music to evoke Igor Stravinsky. Music to invoke his future.
The work cannot be read only in one direction. That work can be considered like a map of a territory, and then you look at the map and to choose your itinerary to go from one point to another one, provided that you see all the points.
La beauté convulsive sera érotique, voilée, explosante, fixe, magique, circonstancielle ou ne sera pas. Explosante, fixe.
I think that chance is directed. Chance organizes itself.
I looked at Mallarmé very often, and the Coup de Dé, this poem, which occupies quite a lot of pages, and these pages are in the same time tied to the other one, but independent. So myself, I consider music like that.
Un coup de dé. Jamais. Quand bien même lancé dans des circonstances éternelles, du fond d'un naufrage.
A throw of the dice? Never. Even when thrown into eternal circumstance from the depths of a shipwreck, chance. Suspension of all rhythm, a constellation, cold from forgetfulness and disuse. Watching, doubting, swaying, gleaming and thinking before stopping at a point of stillness and holiness. Every thought leads to a throw of the dice.
Toute pensée émet un coup de dé.
I consider music like that. Things put in any corner, a kind of chance operation. I don't want to be closed in a box, and my box, musical box. Also for the music, I like to open the windows and to see what people are doing. I think sometimes, if people were aware, if musicians were aware of what goes on in the visual arts, for instance, they will be more open to experimental music. I don't like this word also because experiment, suppose, a doctor and scissors and everything like that. No, I want to have the pleasure of discovery, the surprise of discovery, and the enjoyment of discovery.
I discovered Mallarmé only in 1946. At school, we hardly studied him at all.
What attracted me immediately was the individuality of his language. No one else ever wrote like that.
No one else transformed the French language to such a degree.
Une dentelle s'abolit dans le doute du jeu suprême, à n'entr'ouvrir comme un blasphème qu'absence éternelle de lit.
Lace obliterates itself in the uncertainty of the greatest game, half revealing, like a blasphemy, nothing but the eternal absence of a bed.
What I like so much about Mallarmé is that the way his words are put together is such that to get at what they mean, one must break them apart like a stone.
Reading Mallarmé, what struck me above all was the rigor of his formalism. You will find such rigor in no other writer.
And I told myself that I must find an equivalent to that rigor in my music. For instance, in this second improvisation, there are two words in the poem, or two images, which are immediately striking.
Une dentelle, lace, a piece of lace, a lace curtain, and la vitre, a pane of glass.
In this music, you can hear the lace in the vocal and instrumental decoration, and you can hear the glass in the sonority of the resonating instruments.
I chose the configuration of the instruments and the way of writing precisely to reflect these qualities, the hardness of the glass and the reflections it creates.
And the softness of the ornamentation, like lace.
Cet unanime blanc conflit d'une guirlande avec la même, enfui contre la vitre blême, flotte plus qu'il n'ensevelit. Mais chez qui du rêve se dort, tristement dort une mandore, au creux néant musicien, tel que vers quelque fenêtre, selon nul ventre que le sien, filial on aurait pu naître.
This white, one-minded conflict of a garland with itself, flying against a transparent pane of glass, floats more than it enshrouds. but in the hands of one who gilds themselves with dreams sleeps an instrument, wistful in the hollow emptiness of music. So, facing towards some window, and depending on no internal organ but itself, in a direct descending line, something might be born.
I arrived in Paris in 1943.
I was 18 years old.
I don't regret to have gone through this period, I must say, because, well, that's plenty of remembrances first, not always pleasant, but I mean, certainly a lot of remembrances. I don't say that was pleasant, because, you know, you had all the political situation, which was really very unpleasant even. But it was at least a period when you were obliged to go and to survive. And Paris was not bombed, or very little. And, you know, if you compare with the cities in Poland, for instance, they were totally destroyed. Civilians were evacuated from the east to the west. That was dreadful, I mean, because it was during the winter, 44, and the winter was very severe, very cold, and many people could not do it.
It was a year or two later, in 1946, that I met the actor and theater director, Jean-Louis Barrault.
Barrault was looking somebody to be in charge of the music for his company, and he asked Honegger, do you know a young man who is, you know, professional and so on? And Honegger said, well, try Boulez.
And so I encountered a young composer filled with hope. A 20-year-old Pierre Boulez, as spiky and charming as a kitten. But he had great difficulty concealing his temperament, in equal measure funny and savage as a wild animal.
It was through Barrault that I discovered the poetry of René Char.
I met him. I wrote to him simply that. He was very cordial, very nice. I had myself a very good relationship with him, but he wanted very strongly to be alone. So I saw him less and less, and I saw him once more because I invited him in this house I had in south of France, because it was the part of the country where there was a resistance against the Nazis, and he was one of the chief personalities at the head of the resistance. So I showed him the place where he was, and it was quite emotional then, because it reminded him certainly, things I did not know myself at all.
Bourreau de solitude. Le pas s'est éloigné, le marcheur s'est tu. Sur le cadran de l'imitation, le balancier lance sa charge de granit réflexe.
Steps disappear into the distance. The walker falls silent. On the clock face of imitation, the pendulum swings its knee-jerk weight of granite.
I was struck by the poems, and that was the shock which determined me to use these poems, because I found them so beautiful, and so new also in expression, so condensed also, very strong. I was influenced by the Japanese traditional music, and I heard recordings of the Japanese theater, the bunraku, the no, and I discovered another planet practically. Messiaen was also interested, and that's Messiaen who introduced us to a recording of Japan. It is a different culture, it's a different civilization, and the way they are doing it is extraordinarily impressive, because the precision of gestures, the precision of the telling the story, that's really very impressive.
When the people hear for the first time a music they don't know, the emotional content is completely foreign to them, and they cannot perceive it rapidly or very easily as they perceive the emotional content of the music that they know.
The emotion is very important, but Mahler was not constructing the last movement of the Sixth Symphony only on emotion. There was structure, and you must have kind of equality between the emotion and the structure. Otherwise, you miss something. I wanted to see if that's possible to be anonymous as a composer. And therefore, I did the structure number 1, which I wrote in a night. That seems ridiculous, like Pascal with his illumination, but that was that. I said, I don't want to interfere. I will put the very simple scheme, and then with this scheme, I will compose automatically. I wanted to see if that was possible to make something automatic, but with a form which would have been also more interesting in a way, and not at all just sparse material. It was a moment of suppression of the composer, practically.
I would like to say that mathematicians have always impressed me for their degree of abstraction, and not so much the ease, but the extraordinary ductility of their thought. That is really the power of abstract reasoning.
If the computer would have existed at this time, I would have given a program so that there is a mixture of chance and obligation. Immediately after, I said, my God, I was in a territory which was so dry, so finished, that I want to see if I am able to put two melodies one above another. And I began Marteau sans maître with the third piece, which is a flute and a voice. So I was obliged to be expressive first and to organize melodic lines with their own rhythm. And it cured me of the discipline.
L'artisanat furieux, la roulotte rouge au bord du clou, et cadavre dans le panier, et chevaux de labour dans le fer à cheval. Je rêve la tête sur la pointe de mon couteau, le Pérou.
The red wagon on the nail's edge, and corpse in the basket, and workhorses within the horseshoe. I dream my head on the point of my knife of Peru.
I have years of severe discipline. I wanted music to bloom, really. Yes, I don't want to be closed in a box or something, and my box, musical box. Also for the music, I like to open the windows and to see what people are doing.
I never had any fear either for criticism or for brutal reaction, and I find I prefer them both to politeness or reverence. After all, what they both prove in the end is that you have touched something in the air, and afterwards you will see that all of that is transformed.
For me, there is a musical form I like very much, the form of the spiral. You have seen certainly the Guggenheim Museum in New York, and then the Guggenheim Museum is, a spiral going up. But when you are going to the central stair, then you see what you have seen back, and you look at what you will see. And you have this conjunction of where you are, where you were, and where you will be. Okay, if you look at the architecture, for instance, when the new material came, concrete, glass, steel, you had quite a different type of invention in architecture. And I think in music it is the same. You cannot forever go on with the same material as the 18th century or the 17th century. So you have to invent a new material, and then the new ideas are in phase with the new material.
When you are young like that, and when I was composing that, I was 21, you find something which is important and which is already there, which gives you the force of going further, and you explore in the same time a new territory.
For me, it develops in a way that at times is totally unpredictable or unforeseen, but always logical. It's the logic of the moment. It's like a tree growing. There's one branch like this, another like this. It's logical. But in the end, there are all these branches growing. And the basic idea of a composition for me isn't that of a trajectory, but of a tree. That's the most important thing to me.
My beginning in music was not very easy because I was a late beginner. So I began when I was 17.
I heard an orchestra for the first time when I was 16 or 17.
It was a surprise to hear it.
And it was a surprise. You know, when you are not a child but an adolescent, like that, you are surprised by many things.
Have you been married?
No.
Engaged?
No, also not.
Are you interested in this family life?
No, not at all. I must say, no, I am really one person, so I cannot live really with a family. I could not consider anyway. I was also when I was child, so not very easy with my family, so I cannot. I have not a strong feeling from family life. That's all, yeah, what I can say, and that remained the characteristic also from the childhood to now.
The first encounter with work, you are puzzled because you don't know it. You have to learn to know it, and then this first phase is. You are in darkness, you are in the dark. Then the second phase, you learn, you analyze the work, and you know it. You know the construction, you know how it is made, you have made something of it, out of it, and then you think you know it because you have perceived everything. But when you go further and you want to know how and why, beyond the how, why it was done, then you are in the dark again, because you will never know why a thing is really better than another one.
Your first encounter with a work, you are puzzled by it because you don't know it. You have to learn to know it. And in this first phase, you are in the dark. You are in darkness. Then in the second phase, you learn. You analyze the work and you know it. You know the construction, you know how it is made. And you think you know it because you have perceived everything. But when you go further into the work and you want to know how and why, beyond the how, why it was made, then you are in the dark again. Because you will never know why one thing is really better than another.
You had quite a different type of invention in architecture. And I think in music it is the same. You cannot forever go on with the same material as the 18th century or the 17th century. So you have to invent a new material, and then the new ideas are in phase with the new material.